The movie opens with Ian just arriving at a remote forest. Ian sees several missed calls on his phone. While lost in thought, suddenly a mysterious man knocks on his car window. The man warns Ian that the forest he's about to enter is full of dangerous traps. He even shows proof, a dead farm animal in the area.
You wouldn't realize it, eh? Wooded land. Why, you'd be surprised. I'll leave you to it, eh?
But the warning doesn't change Ian's mind. Resolutely, Ian gathers his belongings and heads into the forest, which is apparently named Loop Track. Ian starts the hike alone, maybe as a way to find some peace of mind. Unfortunately, just 10 minutes in, Ian already looks exhausted. It's clear from this that Ian used to skip physical training a lot. His clothes aren't suitable either, a thin sweater and jeans totally not right for hiking. Plus, without 2 pairs of socks, his feet are covered in painful rashes. Even so, Ian stubbornly continues his journey. Soon, Ian sees another pair of hikers who are busy making content. Strangely, Ian panics, as if he has some trauma from meeting people. To avoid them, Ian chooses to wait until they leave. But because he waits too long, Ian ends up taking a detour.
Look at this. So beautiful.
After feeling safe, Ian stops to rest and have a snack. Suddenly, a hiker named Nikki appears and greets him. The startled Ian immediately stands up and says he's going to keep walking, even though Nikki knows Ian just started resting, so it's impossible for Ian to leave again already. Turns out Nikki is a chatty guy. He bombards Ian with all sorts of questions and unimportant stories. He even admits he deliberately overtook those 2 hikers earlier just to challenge himself so he could catch up to Ian. Like it or not, Ian is forced to listen to Nikki's chatter, even though he only answers once.
That's me.
One of the biggest tracks in the...
No, honestly, it's fun.
I don't mind. In the bush. And you.
Finally, Nikki suggests they hike together to the waterfall. Ian is reluctant, but Nikki keeps persuading him until he can't refuse. The whole way, Nikki talks nonstop. The only information Nikki manages to get from Ian is his name and the fact that Ian used to own a business.
Can you imagine spraining your ankle out here? Ian, do you know what I mean? Yeah.
They continue the hike until they finally find a cabin in the middle of the forest.
One for you.
My Carolyn's in the
Dick.
There, they meet the couple Ian saw earlier, Monica and Austin, who it turns out are also heading to the waterfall.
In Zimbabwe.
We have.
Too close to me. I don't whatever I put my eye on.
That night, Ian is trying to cook meat in the cabin's kitchen. When Nikki walks in, Ian's anxiety immediately flares up again. Nervous, Ian hurriedly pulls the still raw meat off the stove. Nikki tells him to cook it again.
Take your time. Cooking your meat, Ian. Come on, I would have thought it was weird too. Cook your meat, Ian.
But instead of cooking it, Ian makes the flame bigger and almost sets the stove on fire. Luckily, Nikki and Monica quickly put it out. Feeling embarrassed, Ian then grabs his things and quietly leaves the cabin. However, while walking alone in the dark, Ian sees something vague in the distance. Scared, Ian decides to turn back. When he gets to the cabin, Ian finds Austin smoking outside. This time, Ian manages to have a brief chat with him. Austin seems calmer and easier to talk to compared to the others.
No.
Mauling my dog.
The next morning, Nikki gave Ian a pair of hiking socks so his feet wouldn't get hurt anymore. Finally, they set off together. For the whole journey, the 3 of them were busy joking and sharing stories, while Ian remained quiet.
Isn't that great what before?
Like what? Ian, you should. Oh my god, this is gonna be so. Keep on pushing that because we're gonna do heaps of fun.
When they stopped for lunch, they started to feel something was wrong because they didn't see a single bird around them. Austin then shared a story that the day before, he had found an animal carcass that died with horrible wounds. He was curious about what kind of predator could do something like that. Nikki didn't seem too bothered, while Ian looked like he was thinking about it seriously. The conversation then shifted to personal topics. Ian was asked if he was still emotional about his wife. At first Ian avoided the question, but after being pressed, he finally admitted he was once married but is now separated. Feeling uncomfortable with the question, Ian pretended he needed to pee to avoid further interrogation.
Just, you know.
However, while alone, Ian instead saw claw marks and bloodstains on a tree trunk. Ian panicked and immediately ran back to report his finding. Unfortunately, the others thought it was just normal traces from an animal hunt. They continued their journey. For the next few hours, there were no major disturbances, even though Ian grew more paranoid and felt like something was following him. When Ian glanced back, he saw something vague in the distance and immediately called out to the others. But even though they looked carefully, there was nothing there. They started to realize that Ian was indeed socially awkward and seemed to have mental issues. To avoid hurting his feelings, Nikki tried joking, saying that it was probably just a lost goat.
There are goats around.
Towards the evening, the group arrived at another camp. They found 2 backpacks lying around, but their owners were nowhere to be seen. Ian again showed a worried face while the others just had fun.
She's been flirting.
That night, a restless Ian decided to take a walk outside the cabin. Nikki approached him and started a conversation. Nikki advised Ian to be more open, and finally Ian admitted he was feeling down because of personal problems.
Trouble switching the old brain off.
I'm just so tired. I need to.
What makes you think you're
Sorry.
Feeling sorry for him, Nikki then gave him a sleeping pill, which Ian took immediately. But instead of sleeping, Ian grew more restless. He started unpacking the abandoned backpacks left at the camp. Inside one, Ian found a camera and turned it on. In the recording, 2 girls were seen having fun in the forest. When one of the frames was zoomed in, Ian was shocked to see a man lurking in the distance, and that man was Nikki. Ian panicked, but suddenly his head felt very dizzy. At that moment, Ian realized that maybe Nikki had given him a sedative, not a sleeping pill. Ian tried to call for help, but his body weakened until he finally passed out. The next day, Ian woke up with a blanket covering him. Apparently, Nikki had watched over him last night so he wouldn't get cold. Even so, Ian's suspicions didn't go away. He took the camera and accused Nikki of having stalked and killed the 2 female hikers. Ian also accused Nikki of drugging him when he was close to discovering the truth. Hearing these accusations, Nikki was just shocked and didn't defend himself. Austin and Monica, who were there, were also confused.
I don't know what he's.
This is some kind of misunderstanding.
At that tense moment, the 2 girls from the recording suddenly showed up, perfectly fine. The situation became awkward, and Ian, feeling deeply embarrassed, immediately left.
How did you know about the book?
A little while later, Ian approached Nikki again and apologized. He admitted that his paranoia was due to a lack of sleep. Fortunately, Nikki accepted his apology calmly.
Bro, it's actually totally.
Ian also apologized to Austin and Monica. The 3 of them were relaxed and tried to support Ian, realizing he was struggling with anxiety and his mental issues. After that, they packed up and continued their journey until they reached a fork in the path. One trail led to the waterfall while the other led to the Kauri forest. Monica and Austin chose to go to the forest, so the group split up.
You 2 can go and we'll just...
We can go to the.
2 can go to the forest and...
We'll see the guys. Let's go.
Ian and Nikki kept walking for hours until it started getting dark. Along the way, Ian saw a vague figure in the distance again, which scared him.
It is. This is it. This is different.
Nikki.
But his fear disappeared when they finally arrived at the very beautiful waterfall. They took a moment to enjoy the view before continuing on because it was getting darker. As the night grew later, the path they were on became narrower and darker. Ian suggested finding another route, but Nikki insisted there was no other
I
choice.
seem really on edge, but
Yeah, that's sensible.
like it's gonna be in the trees.
Nikki then gave his expensive flashlight to Ian so he wouldn't be afraid and asked him to lead the way. Ian walked in front, but shortly after, he slipped and dropped the flashlight down a slope. Nikki was annoyed and forced him to climb down and retrieve the flashlight, which he said cost $300. Reluctantly, Ian obeyed. However, while he was down below, Ian saw a dark figure standing right next to him. Panicked, Ian ran and coincidentally met Austin and Monica, followed by Nikki. They looked down but didn't see anything. But Ian insisted that a figure had been chasing him. He even accused Austin of being the one chasing him. Hearing the accusation, Austin got angry and said Ian was crazy. Luckily, Nikki managed to calm them both down. Then, they decided to stop at the nearest cabin. That night, Nikki, Austin, and Monica had a serious talk. They were increasingly worried about Ian's mental state and thought he was overly paranoid. Finally, they agreed they needed to get Ian out of the forest immediately. Since Austin and Monica still wanted to continue their honeymoon, Nikki offered to take Ian back to town.
It's just we don't
On edge?
And, you know, so
Yeah, rip it out, man.
The next morning, Nikki and Ian set off together. They walked for hours until Nikki excused himself to go have a poop.
Oh, crazy to me. 2 seconds, yeah.
Ian, waiting alone, grew anxious when Nikki didn't return. When Ian went to look, he was shocked to find Nikki already dead in a gruesome condition. Terrified, Ian ran to find Austin and Monica, screaming that something had killed Nikki.
Oh, you can't go. They killed him!
Unfortunately, his confused explanation made the couple suspect that Ian was the culprit. Austin even pulled a knife and told him to leave.
it'll be.
Not long after, when Austin and Monica stopped, suddenly Monica was dragged away by something invisible. Austin panicked and searched for her, but all he found was Monica's body, already cut in two. Ian's appearance at the scene made Austin even more convinced that Ian was the killer. Just as Austin was about to attack, his leg got caught in a bear trap. At that moment, a prehistoric bird-like creature, as if from the dinosaur age, appeared and dragged Monica's corpse away. Ian and Austin witnessed this horrifying reality. Realizing the danger, Ian quickly helped Austin free his leg from the trap using a rock, then took him to a nearby cabin. They locked all the doors and prepared for an attack. In his helpless state, Austin apologized to Ian for not believing him. Ian remained optimistic and promised to get him home tomorrow to contact the authorities.
Doesn't matter anyway.
However, not long after, the giant bird returned and broke in. Ian, who was near the door, almost became a victim, but Austin successfully distracted the creature. Seizing the opportunity, Ian hit the bird with an axe. Unfortunately, the monster was still too strong and counterattacked instead, stabbing Austin in the face with its sharp beak, killing him. The bird then turned to chase Ian. This time, Ian fought back with all his might. He choked the monster's neck until it finally stopped moving. The next morning, a bruised and battered Ian managed to walk out of the forest. As he neared the parking area, his eyes caught a horrifying sight, one of the missing female hikers, her corpse hanging from a tree. Not far from there, Ian found a cluster of large eggs, proof that the prehistoric bird creatures weren't alone, and were likely still breeding. Panicked, Ian tried to escape, but another giant bird suddenly appeared and attacked him. With great difficulty, Ian managed to free himself by taking off his pants, which were caught, then kept running as hard as he could until he finally reached the highway. The film's closing scene shows a desperate Ian standing in the middle of the road, trying to stop a car while screaming for help, and the film ends.